Yeah, I think it's
All
All
right.
right, and we're
all
live.
right. It's all right.
We're live. We're live.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Script Corners. Today we're not doing a regular review response, but we're having a little debate with Docta Delicious. We did a response to his video a while back, and now he's here. I'm joined also by Latvian Dragon, who's going to be moderating this little discussion, and
Me.
we're just
I don't
going to
exist.
talk about the Clone Wars, I guess.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Where should we begin? Hmm.
Is there a way to get
Well,
Should
myself from
I
non-exist?
start or something? Or should I propose
Yeah,
something
go
and
ahead.
then you respond? Yeah. So I think definitely in my video I talked about how I wasn't really a big fan of how the military was handled in that and how they're doing the whole formations and how they would stand out like in the middle of the battlefield and kind of fought in the sense where it's like civil war, like a civil war or like an American Revolutionary kind of tactics and all of that. So, what do you think that's like not a flaw, or is that something that
uh,
you agree with me with?
that's
I certainly think there's kind of I would say like when it is in the show, there's certainly like I say probably the biggest example is the Clone Wars movie
Mm-hmm.
where they decide to move out from cover instead of staying where they are. I mean, it has no real effect on the plot because they went either way, but it is a questionable decision. However, I think most times we see the clone troopers, they're just using the cover to their advantage whenever they can. I mean, I know a big one is certainly the we see in season 3 like made trench systems and they for like Ryloth
Mm-hmm.
or like an Umbara when they use like a ridge as cover from the next wave of Umbarans. I don't really remember a lot of times where the clones are just charging forward without any sort of tactics.
all right. And one thing, Doctor Delicious, if you're complaining about that prequels and TCW having these kinds of outdated battle strategies, the original trilogy also has outdated stuff like trench warfare.
I suppose I would say I think trench warfare is a bit more advanced than line battling, although it's certainly not the best. And I would say that the Clone Wars does have its fair share of trench warfare, though it's more so like hiding in ditches rather than like building trenches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I see what your point is right there. My issue with it is that they do these tactics and then they end up becoming very successful for it. For instance, in the second season, I want to say is they return to Geonosis. There's another rebellion against the
Oh,
Geonosians,
what the hell?
and they enter through the shield generator. And I'm fine with Anakin
Latvian,
and Ahsoka.
What the?
Latvian,
What?
there's absolutely nothing outdated about trench warfare.
Well,
Wow, man,
Replica,
come
leave
on.
us alone.
Oh, see.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah,
okay.
but yeah, basically, I get to back to my point. The shield generator, they kind of run through it, and all these clones are right them behind them. And sure, there are some
Oh,
casualties there, but it's a victorious push on their part. And I feel as if a military charge like that wouldn't really work. I could see it maybe being done in like 19th century, but because there was like cavalry and weapons weren't as advanced yet. And I just feel as if that when there's all these like explosives and weapons that can shoot very
Yeah,
fast, I don't really see how that's really like realistic and all that.
yeah, I can sort of agree. However, what we see from the battle, there's like multiple strands of troopers attacking. Basically, what they just had to do was get within range of the cannons in order to disable them with EMPs. It was necessarily like just getting out of the range of their fire versus necessarily just charging forward. I think it was just kind of like a swift attack where they just basically, okay, you know what, we need to get behind those cannons or in a place where they can't hit us. So best option would just be get in there as fast as possible.
yeah, okay. And the line formation makes sense for the battle droids because Their strength is in the numbers.
Yeah, they're sort of meant to like overwhelm with more simple tactics, rather than more like strategic
Oh, what the
iteration.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I see. I do think that the CIS definitely have a far bigger army. They're about quantity over quality versus, the Republic forces is quality over quantity. I would say this about the Geonosius battle. The reason why that's big, it's because it's a victorious push right there, and I feel it is that it was a little bit suicidal. Now, let's just say they charge in there with vehicles, it would be kind of a different story because at least, there's armor protection. And when you look at military combat, and I was looking at this last night, and there's this one YouTube channel, I think it's like Funker 505 or 540, and it basically just shows combat footage on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they basically they're always like in cover and all that, and they're out in the open, like they will be like in prone, so it's like very like much harder to see them, so or much harder to hit them more.
Yeah, although I will say I don't think charging in with vehicles would work because they mainly just had, like Republic walkers, which would have been instantly decimated by the proton cannons that they use to try to take out the clone troopers. I think with like you take in a couple small squads, you move really fast. I think there's a good chance that they sneak by. Plus, they had already kind of destroyed a large portion of their forces during the initial landing, so it was kind of just cleaning up the the remainder.
They still had a shield generator and all of that, and they still had like firing down below, and there was a lot of clones casualty. And usually when you have a push like that, you would use some sort of vehicle there, because with a vehicle you can have armor protection. And if that's the case where they didn't have like those tanks, I'm not sure. I'm assuming you guys play the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. Like, who has that weapon? Know how like on Kashyyyk there's that tank that's also gets like, they have like an Imperial version of that later on. And I don't know the name of that, but why couldn't they use that? And
which vehicle specifically?
Yeah,
I'm blanking on the name of the vehicle, but
Yeah.
if you ever played Kashyyyk.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's kind of stupid.
The swamp speeder?
No, it's not that.
It's more bigger, and it's more of a tank. If I could show you an image in the chat, hold on.
I'm not. I think I know what you're talking about. I can't be sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the name. Oh, here it is. I'm gonna find the name for it. It's called a TX-130 Saber class. Here's a little Google image of it. And anyone else who's listening, this is what it looks like. So it's the TX.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. The laser.
Yeah, it had like you can go into the turret. Like there's a second compartment, kind of like a Warthog from Halo, but more of a tank though. So
yeah,
I believe at the time, like from the Star Wars, the Clone Wars timeline, like the tanks were more so like experimental type weapons. I mean, they were meant for like, I suppose it was like disintegration of targets, because that's what we see them. Because that's what the in the Zilla Beast arc, they use them for like taking out the beast. I think what like the Dugs think that the Republic just killed the beast with some sort of like high powered blast, but instead they just they knocked it out. I don't think that something like the TX-130 would just be of strategic value there, because either it would get shot by the tank, or just the type of weapon that it used wouldn't be effective against it.
So on the Battle of Geonosis, you wouldn't think that would be very effective, because they're literally finding these.
Oh yeah, now I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which Battle Geonosis? The one in TCW or Episode 2?
Yeah.
All right.
I don't even know if those are canon within Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
All right.
I think Clone Wars is. I think those are canon, I believe.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with Star Wars: The Clone Wars is it kind of sits in a weird ground between the films and the expanded universe, where it's kind of just this strange third child, where it was intended to just be like a follow-up to the movies while being entirely independent from the EU. but it ended up being part of the EU anyway. So it didn't really. It's kind of hard to say whether or not it's congruent with like stuff like Battlefront 2 or Republic Commando.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Republic Commando is canon because, well, what I know about it is I know Tarkovsky's Clone Wars back in like 2002, 2003. I know that's like Legends now, like that's not canon, but I know I'm confident that that's how it's like supposed to be TCW because a lot of people, because there's our scenes that connects to the movies. Obviously, you see that in season 7 is when they're talking about, there's the dark side. It might be around Palpatine and all of that, and then we get some more information in TCW. So
Wars is undoubtedly part of the film canon, but it's kind of. But the TX-130 tanks that are those in the films? Because I think they're
maybe in a Disney somewhere, but
I think they were introduced in the expanded universe with like stuff like Battlefront 2, which is why I kind of dispute the idea that those are canon within Star Wars Clone Wars.
Yeah, but there are some vehicles that should be there, but they don't. Like
I think something like speeders. I think those would be pretty helpful during a situation like that. However, I do think that what they decided on, which was just a group of clones, I do think that is strategically viable, just not as viable as it could have been.
Okay, yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I mean, they could have used the turbo tank. I know the turbo tank was around during the Clone Wars and all of that during the show. They could have used that. And also, I think it just makes sense to use a tank there. And the CIS, like 10 years before the Clone Wars was there, they were using tanks. And that wasn't a part of the Republic. That was made by all sorts of different factions and all that. So I feel like it's pretty reasonable that they would have some sort of fast tank out there because they do have more resources.
I think another thing is just the size of the tanks. I mean, the what they decided to do was disable the proton cannons, because if we remember, the proton cannons were introduced in season 1 and they had the ability to tear smaller Republic cruisers apart. They were pretty accurate as well. I think the risk they were assuming was, okay, if we send in a tank, as soon as it gets past the shield, it's just going to get torn apart by those things, versus a bunch of smaller targets which have a chance of making it through and disabling them.
Interesting. Couldn't they just use the proton cannon on the infantry?
They could, and they try. But the thing is, I mean, they were pretty spread out, and they're smaller targets. And
they were in a group running together in a platoon.
They were like, it was kind of like Anakin and Ahsoka were leading the charge, and it was like the clones were kind of like in a sort of like vertical line where they had like a decent amount of space in between them. And we also know that Ahsoka was leading a different group from the left while Anakin was coming in from the right. So it wasn't just like one group of them. And we also see later that Obi-Wan and Ki-Adi-Mundi had a detachment of clones, so they were coming in from multiple angles.
Okay, so they're coming in at multiple angles. I think it makes more sense to use vehicles, and I'll just show you like an image right here because they're not really in the lines. It's a little bit more chaotic. I'll get like a little screenshot of it just to show how it is. And there's like explosives there. I just think that they didn't go till cover until like 30 seconds running down there or close to it.
Yeah, it is about 20, because I think it's like one long take, so it's about 24 seconds of where they're not taking cover.
Yeah, it's just go on.
Fair enough. Although I don't know, I'd say that at the very least Anakin and Ahsoka could get through, and
absolutely
if they had EMPs, that would effectively accomplish the same thing as like the clones also surviving, which is what happens. So it's like, so the clones that survived, maybe not, but that doesn't really change anything within the events of the Battle of Geonosis.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm fine with them finding a way to win and all that. Like, but I just don't like it how it's done. because how it's done is it's just, those infantry charges, you don't really see something like that, especially with like knowing what kind of technology is out there. And obviously I'm perfectly fine with, Anakin and Ahsoka surviving because Jedi. I know like Jedi's can like run really fast and they have
they have enhanced reflexes. So
enhanced reflexes.
Launch at them, they could avoid it.
Yeah, the reason why they use lightsabers versus guns is because they can block like blaster bolts and all that.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense why they do that. I'm fine with them surviving. It's just like the clones. There's a lot of clones that are used there as like cannon fodder. I just don't see that really working out. I just think that maybe if they had some sort of vehicle.
I just think that nothing changes if all of the clones die, because Anakin and Ahsoka make it to cover, and then they throw their EMP grenades. The cannons still get disabled, which allows the walkers to come in and blow up their energy shield.
Well, you're talking about explosives. How well can a Jedi deflect an explosive of some kind?
Well, I specifically said earlier that it's not about it. I don't think that they would need to block them. I think they would just need to avoid them. I mean, we see in Defenders of Peace that Anakin does a pretty good job at avoiding explosive shots from artillery. He goes up against 3 AATs, and he manages to avoid all of them with his reflexes.
Oh, which episode is Defenders of Peace again?
Season 1, episode 14, with the lemur people.
Oh, okay. No, I know. I see what you're saying. Where they is that when they have like a shield generator and then like the droids kind of slowly march forward? Is that with like the big fat like CIS general?
Yes, yeah, with Takei playing the
lock. Yeah, it's just really hard for Anakin. Obviously, Anakin's a very powerful Force user, and Ahsoka, is with him. It's just like one big push right there. I would have just been fine if he had like he brought in he was in some sort of vehicle at that time, just something to give him a little bit more cover, because you could just still die from like explosives. I remember the Battle of Geonosis in the movies. A lot of Jedi died in that gladiator arena. So I think that is
although it's not exactly an equivalent scenario, because it was like thousands of battle droids versus maybe a company of droids and Geonosians in that little shield generator area. So like maybe I would say like 100 at most. They were kind of low on resources at that point because they'd used most of them in their initial defense.
I would say they're probably more than 100 there. Obviously, I think the numbers. I think we're never going to get a like precise number right there. I just think that doing a push like this, especially even with infantry, with knowing what weapons do in this universe, is very, very. I think aggressive into the point where it's unrealistic. Yeah. I don't mind aggression if it's like
I would say
because you could at least have like protection from explosives.
I can agree. I can agree to an extent. However, I don't think that. I mean, either like the two plot scenarios are like, say this plays out realistically. I mean, Anakin and Ahsoka just still accomplished their mission. But say this plays out like, oh yeah, we actually use like all of our resources to our disposal. It plays out the same. Maybe they lose a few less troopers. It's not really it's not exactly like I would say it's a questionable decision. However, it changes nothing really. I mean, there is nothing about Geonosis is affected by the choice that the Jedi make. Even if we were to like imagine a scenario where all of the clones die, because that's probably what should happen. But Ahsoka and Anakin still make it to the rocks, and they throw their grenades. The cannons get disabled. The walkers come in, blow up the shield generator. It all goes swimmingly.
Hypothetically speaking, let's just say it's just Anakin and Ahsoka. The clones, think of them as pawns of the chessboard. That's how they're kind of used in this situation, where they're kind of, because they're going to be focusing fire all across the board. There's going to be clones in the back they're going to be shooting at. So let's just say all the attention is just on Anakin and Ahsoka. I think it would be a much harder push to do.
Right, but what I'm saying is, like, in this hypothetical scenario where we say they use the exact same tactic, but a more realistic scenario plays out, I would say all of the clones end up dying, which is, I think that's reasonable to say, instead of what actually happens, which is only a few end up dying. I think it's fair enough to the point where in this scenario, yes, all of the clones end up dying, but Anakin and Ahsoka still make it and accomplish their mission. So there's really nothing affected by this strategy.
I will say this much though, because like you do have a lot of weapon. They have a bunch of lasers being fired at them at once. Not once you like it would just be a little bit like absurd for them to defend against that and evade that all at once, because these Geonosians, they can fly around, they can pick up people, they can shoot around, they can surround them entirely and get to that point. So I think it would be better if vehicles were used there, because I think that would be realistic. Yeah. And usually when you see a charge like this, it would be like tanks or something, and they would just go through it.
I can kind of agree with that. Are there any other scenarios that you think that in the movie, or sorry, in the movie, the show, where they use a blind charge rather than something strategic?
No, I do have more of that. You did bring up how the CIS, how it makes sense for them to use, line formations and all that, and try to overpower them and all.
Yeah, in a sense, I would say that I would say it's not really all they do, but usually when they do it, it's fine.
Okay. Well, one thing I would say is the reason why I don't think it's fine that they do it is because the CIS army, especially against the Republic, tend to lose way more than the Republic does, I would say. And when the CIS does win against the Republic, the victory usually is not like a sting. And this is like the big battles. Obviously, there might be some moments where there's like Ventress, and she might succeed in like saving one of those separatists like leaders or something. And I think that was in season 1 where one of the guys like betrayed the Republic. But when it comes to the B1 droids, there's not many moments where, at least especially in the climax, where they're not even winning like at all. They don't even seem effective.
So essentially what you're saying is they should invent new kinds of droids in order to like improve their arsenal?
I would say the B1 droids should be a lot better than they are now. I don't mind them being considered bad soldiers, but I don't be like cheap in the sense, but to a certain degree, they should be a lot better at their job and should accomplish more.
I don't really think that would be consistent with the films, though, because as we see from episodes 1 to 3, the B1 droids don't really change that much. They're just kind of cheap but numerous battle droids throughout the entire thing. Like, it would be kind of weird, like, episode 1, useless fodder, episode 2, useless fodder. Oh, but there was an entire war fought where they were epic killing machines. Episode 3, useless fodder. Like, I don't think that would line up.
So I agree that they should not be like killing machines, where there should be like really good at their jobs and be juggernauts, for instance. I think
sort of like just making them better, it would be kind of weird as to like why they're good in the Clone Wars, why they're better, and then in episode 3 they just kind of deteriorate again, because aboard the Invisible Hand in Revenge of the Sith, the droids there just kind of act like the droids from episode 1 and episode 2. They're just kind of goofy and there to get sliced up by Jedi. And I don't think it would be consistent if just the Clone Wars decided, you know what, we're going to make the droids actually good and like cost, I guess, I don't know about cost effective, but sort of like, use more to use like more advantageous, which like I think that's why they meant things like B2s or rocket droids or commando droids or droideka. So it's like, we can have our overwhelming standard infantry, but we can also have this miscellaneous group of droids that serve different purposes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see you're saying, and I do agree that they should have, different droids that serve different purposes. And obviously, the B1 droids are obviously supposed to be like kind of the low tier soldier and supposed to be kind of cannon fodder. My thing with the droids is they get to the point where they almost seem incompetent at what they do. And the fact is, the CIS is not around for a short time. They're there for a very long time. So from Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones, it's like a 10-year gap. And then from Attack of the Clones...
The Phantom Menace does not feature the Confederacy of Independent Systems. It's just the Trade Federation.
Just a trade federation. Okay.
Yeah, so they're just like they're as far as we know, they're just a private army. So the effectiveness of their battle droids and their usage of military tactics isn't like well defined. And the separatists, like the corporate alliance, the corporate alliance, the Techno Union, the Trade Federation, the Banking Clan, they all kind of form together to make the Separatist Alliance in Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like it's because the conflict in Attack of the Clones is relatively recent. It's not like the CIS has been building up their reserves for 10 years. They're only just starting now to like to start like forming their armies.
That seems odd because I know Palpatine was always behind the scenes, and he kind of helped make this army up. And I imagine he's been planning this for a long time because you had the whole thing with Master Sifo Dyas and how there was 10 years ago he got in the clone army,
right?
He got this clone in, and so I think it was being planned for a while.
Planned, sure, but I think the kind of the thing was that the clones took 10 years to make. So
yes,
if you had the CIS slowly building their droids for 10 years, one that's kind of a high risk like thing where it's oh man, what if somebody finds out at like year 5? I mean, oh man, the clones aren't ready yet. The CIS is going to want to take over the Republic now. Oh man, my entire plan of restructuring the Republic has kind of gone to shit. So it's like, okay, so what do? We just wait for 10 years and then we start building up the CIS.
I don't think Palpatine would procrastinate that. I think he would start building up right away because he had plans to kind of go up here and plan everything out because I believe he trained Maul for a long time too, so he had plans for him to be his
but the thing is, like, I don't think he like really got. I mean, he was obviously planning it for 10 years.
Okay,
but I don't think he was built. I don't think the droid army was being built up during this time. Otherwise, it would make the Republic victory at Geonosis seem absolutely insane because you'd think there would just be billions upon billions of droids there with absolutely no chance in hell of anybody surviving. Which is why I think it's more realistic that they just like started building them maybe a couple months ago, or maybe a year. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, it makes sense why there isn't literally an army of droids, the population of like 5 different galaxies.
Okay. I would say this much. I know that once that kind of happens, I think they do have a lot more droids at that point because by that point, the Battle of Geonosis is actually, and this is how it is in TCW, is considered one of the worst victories by the Republic in the canon, or at least how it is in TCW, because even though obviously when we watch the movie it's a very heroic battle and all that, and if you find that shocking, I don't really blame you, because in the beginning of that Geonosis episode that I was referencing here, they were talking about like how they're going to go back to Geonosis and how the clones were loathing it because apparently Geonosis was a really ugly battle for them.
I don't exactly remember them talking about the clones. I'm aware that the Battle of Geonosis in Legends is like an absolute clusterfuck.
Yeah.
However, the Trade Federation, like all of the different little sects of the CIS, they're all kind of scared as hell in the Attack of the Clones. They're like, yeah, this is getting really bad for us. I think we should leave. I don't exactly remember anything about the clones being mentioned, although I can go check the episode again.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the script right now trying to see. And then this is like the same episode where Ahsoka and Anakin are competing for kills and all of that. And then, yeah, I'm just trying to get down here. I think they say pretty on. And yeah, Kai Mundi's in here. But yeah, I'll just Control F and I'll just say.
When will change the subject?
Yeah, no, we should probably move on to like kind of more of the points. Besides,
I'm not exactly seeing anything here about I totally believe you that the Battle of Geonosis was like completely wrong. I'm just not seeing it in the episode itself.
Yeah,
I would just say that I just don't think it would be realistic for the CIS to start building up their reserves right now, especially if they get found out, like before the clone army is ready, that completely screws over Palpatine's plan because he needs the Separatists to lose the war.
He needs the separate. Yeah, he does need a separatist to lose the war, and I'm fine with the clones being much better than the droids. Obviously, they're more expensive. Obviously, there's less of them. And I think the public was going to use less of them. They would understand their effectiveness. I would say they are a little bit incompetent though, because when it comes to it and all, they don't really get like their jobs done and all that. And there's points where they almost have like 12-year-old kids, and I just don't think that's a really good way to do it. I know they try to use it for comic relief, but it doesn't really make sense when it comes
I
to.
suppose, but I don't know. I think that droids being comedic is kind of a staple. Like we see them in Revenge of the Sith. Like those two super battle droids that try to like beat up R2 essentially.
Yeah.
They're obviously they have more complex programming. They have somewhat of a sense of humor. Or like that droid that gives Grievous the lightsaber. He's like excuse me, and when he takes Anakin's lightsaber, and then when Grievous just snatches it from him, he's like, "You're welcome." So it's like I think that it's perfectly fine that they have like goofy personalities. I think it's totally consistent with what we see in Revenge of the Sith or even Attack of the Clones. Like the super battle droid that like knocks the B1 over when it gets injured. That's kind of a sign that they're more than just like like blank slate robots.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I don't mind them being super. There's like some comedic. I think in the movies it's handled a lot better than it is in the show. So, for instance, I'm a kind of person that thinks the prequels is much better than the Clone Wars series. Just to put that
because I remember the prequels were like kind of sucky in your video.
So I think the prequels are objectively bad, but I think the Clone Wars is worse than the prequels, and I think the Clone Wars is better than the sequels, but that doesn't mean the Clone Wars is good.
Well, being better than the sequels that should just be the standard. It should be like a requirement.
Yeah, it should be, because those movies are so bad it's good sometimes. So like Princess Leia flying through space, but yeah, I would say with the droids though, because in the movies. They at least try to get their job done. I think there's a good point.
I think like you might have a case for the B1s, but like I think for pretty much any other droid on the show or any other military droid, they're definitely leaving an impact. I mean, like about like I don't know, a platoon of super battle droids like does a pretty good job at invading a Republic cruiser in Cloak of Darkness or season 1 episode 9. And you see the rocket droids in season 1, episode 13. They do a really good job at like boarding Ayla's ship, and they basically take it all over. They even cause like Anakin, Ahsoka, and Ayla to retreat.
Was that a climactic victory though, or was that just like kind of like a beginning battle?
It was a victory because I mean, basically what had to happen in that episode was Anakin's forces had to evacuate what was left of Ayla's fleet, and they some weird stuff, but like their hyperdrive got activated, so they ended up getting launched into the unknown of space.
Okay.
And so essentially, I believe what happened was Yularen was like, okay, listen, we need to finish what we're doing here, and then we need to find Ayla and Anakin, etc. So it's like that is certainly a time where the Separatists like got a victory, and the droids were good at their job. I mean, those are just 2 examples from season 1. I mean, I could also name Ringo Vinda from season 6.
Okay.
They use B1s, spider droids, rocket droids, droidicas, and they basically they amalgamate all of those different droids. And once the one clone trooper snaps, they basically push them back all the way until the 501st are forced to retreat from Ringo Vinda.
Okay, so that's the beginning of the whole episode where is it 5 or something commits Order 66 too soon? Is that the episode?
Yeah, they I don't think that they caused them to retreat from Ringo Vinda in that episode, but it is like revealed in episode 4 of that arc that the 501st were taken away from it because it was just a losing battle.
Interesting. That seems kind of off screen in a way. It's just kind of something where they just kind of.
But it is that like it is acknowledging the fact that the Separatists like took a victory, and I mean it does. I think the one would just be Ryloth. I mean, it's in season 3. They do eventually take Ryloth back. Obviously, I mean it's even they even take it back before they even lost it, according to if you watch the show in season order instead of chronological order.
But, I did watch in season order. Yeah.
I honestly can't ever watch it in chronological order. It doesn't feel right to me.
Okay.
Why?
I don't know why, but essentially, it's just like I'm pretty sure it's just tanks, B1s and B2s, and they managed to completely drive the Republic forces from Ryloth.
Yeah, no, it's just completely off screen, which is the one thing that I put there, and that kind of brings back
with Ryloth. They do show the fact that the just standard droids, B1s and B2s, managed to take back. But yeah, with Ring of Vinda, it is an off-screen loss. But I don't think that diminishes the fact that the droids do their job.
It kind of does because you don't get to see it though. Because
but it did happen, and I think that's kind of a cheap criticism. It's like to say that we're not aware that happened. I mean, to make a comparison, Star Wars Clone Wars 2003. I mean, one of the show-stopping shots is the fact that a Jedi cruiser has crashed on a planet and the Jedi are hiding in the wreckage. We don't directly see General Grievous make this Jedi cruiser crash, but we do know that he did it, which proves that he's a very effective tactician.
It's different though. The one thing that makes that episode very different, because that's like probably the best episode in the 2003 Clone Wars by far. That episode's also much shorter than the Clone Wars episodes like we get from Dave Filoni's perspective.
Maybe, but I don't think that means. But we're still just not shown it. But that doesn't cheapen the fact that General Grievous caused that to happen.
Well, one thing for sure is you see the cruiser get down, and the difference is the Separatists actually win that battle, and not only that, the Republic was able to escape there, but Grievous goes in there, kills like a few Jedi right there, injures a couple others, and then they kind of have to make a escape and push, and that's how the episode ends. Like, it's not really much of a Republic victory right there. Versus in a lot of Clone Wars episodes, the good guys win against like these Separatist droid army like all the time. They never have a climactic victory ever, a victory that really stings. Versus Republic, obviously against Flora.
If we're talking about, I mean, I don't know. I would say, if we're just talking about like end of episode like losses, I mean, I guess that's fair. Again, I would cite Ryloth.
I would cite those 1,000 Ryloth.
They do eventually lose Ryloth, but the Separatists have to lose the war and get pushed back to the Outer Rim, and I don't think Ryloth is in the Outer Rim, so it's like it's just kind of like it had to happen, and they chose to have it happen sooner rather than later. It's not really and I would cite Massacre, which completely eradicates the Night Sisters as a faction from the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
That's definitely a climactic Separatist victory.
It is, yeah. I'm talking specifically against the Republic, though, because you don't necessarily root for the Night Sisters in that situation. I guess Ventress might be your POV character, but they're not like the good guys necessarily.
And I'd say another one, Felucia, Season 2, Episode 1. The Separatists, basically, they drive Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka to the breaking point. Yeah. To the point where you basically get a shot of there being hundreds of droids destroying the remainder of Ahsoka's forces while they evacuate. I think that's pretty indicative that the Separatists can do their jobs.
Yeah, and that's
the last 10 seconds, Airborne, because I think something got cut out right there.
Sorry,
for fuck's sake.
What I'm trying to say is, I think like in Battle of Felucia, Season 2, Episode 1, you just get this shot of like hundreds of droids converging on Ahsoka's location while she evacuates. It's like I don't know. I think that's a moment where it's just the Separatists have completely beaten back the Republic, and it's indicative of the fact that they can do their job.
Okay, yeah, I would say this much though about that scene is in that episode. That's not the purpose of the scene. It's the purpose of that is to show that Ahsoka's not really following orders right there. And the purpose is she got her on the side.
I think I don't know. I think that's just kind of how the Clone Wars chooses to frame its scene. You can't really fault it for that.
Yeah, well, I will say this much though. I think the Separatists not being very good at their jobs can be very hindering because a lot of their climactic battles they don't win. So there's no really like a real battle that really like resonates or sticks with the people. Like for instance, in SpongeBob when Squilliam will sometimes win at the end where he finds out Squidward's a complete and total fraud. You can say I know SpongeBob and comparing SpongeBob to Clone Wars is a little bit apples and oranges, but
Yeah.
And because SpongeBob is like the best show ever, you can't compare god tier art to not god tier art. I mean, well, come on.
I mean, SpongeBob is. I love the old SpongeBob. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. But in the episode Hooky, SpongeBob and Patrick are playing hooky, and then they kind of learn their lesson at the end, and they don't win. They realize that they're like in the wrong right there, and all of that.
That's fair enough. However, I don't think you need to accomplish like the idea of like characters losing by in the Clone Wars just by virtue of the fact that the Separatist won and we're going to shove that in your face as much as possible. I mean, Cloak of Darkness. No, the Separatists don't manage to capture some sort of major territory or a hyperspace lane or a planet. But Ventress, showing that she can prove it herself by her plan going well, and freeing Gunray, and having and Luminara and Ahsoka basically both failing due to their weaknesses as characters. I think that's effective in showing I think that's perfectly effective in showing one, Separatists can be effective, and two, that people can learn from the consequences of their actions.
Yeah, I think Ventress is one of the better villains in the show, I would say. I think the one thing about having good villains, or at least having villains to be a little bit stronger, is it gives a reason for characters to grow. Because there's really not much of a reason for a lot of characters to grow. Because if you look at Anakin and Obi-Wan, how did they really grow as characters throughout TCW?
I mean, I would say Obi-Wan is rather static. I would say that is kind of the point. I would just say he develops he just becomes more intimate with Anakin over the course of the show. But I don't think you can really do anything beyond that would directly conflict with his character and.
All right.
Three.
Okay.
Anakin kind of goes through a progression and a regression where it's seasons 1 through 3 is okay, you know what? I was kind of confused about this Jedi stuff, but now I'm kind of finally getting it. And then season 4 to 5 is just okay, the Jedi are being kind of weird. I don't know about this. And it's kind of the same thing for Ahsoka. However, the difference between Anakin and Ahsoka is that Anakin's he's too afraid to let go of anything. So instead of expressing his problems with the Jedi Order, he just lets it boil up inside him, which is kind of leading towards a Revenge of the Sith, where it's just he can't express to anyone how he truly feels, so he just kind of lets it sit there. Versus Ahsoka, who's you know what, I don't think the Jedi Order is right for me. I'm going to let it go, and that action also has a massive effect on how Anakin views everything.
Yeah, but. Still,
can you guys hear me all right? Sorry,
I can hear you.
I didn't see my my icon. Get the little outline around it. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you. It's just that
it's connection not very good right now.
Okay,
or something.
No, it's all good. Is it possible that I talk over you?
All right. Can we finally move the subject? What was the next one?
I suppose we can get to a second.
Yeah, no. I just want to get it quickly out because I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about here. I think one thing is Anakin doesn't really change as a character. The idea of him keeping his feelings and hiding away from the Jedi, that was established in Attack of the Clones. I mean, yeah,
it was.
It doesn't really change.
But it's sort of I think it's sort of a thing where it's Anakin sort of learns from his experience with Ahsoka, where he's you know what, maybe I don't need to I don't need to hold on to everybody as tight as I do, but that in turn kind of I was okay, so I really trust Ahsoka now. I think that she can do the right thing. And then when he realizes that Ahsoka doing the right thing meant leaving the Order, I think that just stirs up more fear and conflict inside of him. So again, it's kind of a case of Anakin can only grow so much from Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith before it becomes a concern. So I think it's fine for the writers of the show to just be like, okay, so we're just gonna take those traits from episode 2 and 3 or episode 2, make him a bit more confident, which is much to my chagrin because I think that what they did for like his voice acting is kind of weird in the show.
But it's much different than Hayden Christensen.
Yeah, and I don't like that very much. But just talking about like his actions as a character, just taking like his inherent fear of loss, his fear of his instinctual drive to care for people. I think just taking that and developing it is like wiser than like inventing a new character arc for him that just winds up being congruent with Revenge of the Sith.
So here's a really good character arc moment that I can do that connects to all Star Wars and Anakin. Sorry, Latavian Dragon, about this. I just think there's just so much we can talk about here, so I apologize. Yeah. But basically, you know how Anakin, he becomes Darth Vader. Darth Vader is kind of like, this officer, this very high-ranking guy. He commands and leads troops. I think it would have been cool to see maybe he develops, he comes from like a warrior to someone that knows how to lead troops. And he just kind of knows how to like, he doesn't really kind of develop into that. He's just kind of the same character throughout the series. And there's really not much.
I don't know about that. I would say it's kind of like a triangle where he sort of starts, or I don't know, like, so like one kind of trait remains consistent, and that is he just can't let go, or he just can't he can't tell people how he's feeling.
I mean, that's his character. Yeah, I agree. But
that's like the thing that stays consistent in the show. But the thing that like remains inconsistent is like his attachment. So it's like he kind of becomes more relaxed over the course of the first 3 seasons. But then as more bad things happen in seasons 4 and 5, it kind of just becomes like he kind of just regresses back into his initial like more so I wouldn't call it selfish, but kind of like. But his very like clingy state that we see him as like in sort of the initial phases of Attack of the Clones, and I think that's kind of the point. It's sort of a like, okay, maybe Anakin's just going to turn out okay, like just from the view of someone who has only seen episodes 1 and 2. If they're watching the show, they're gonna be like, okay, you know what? Maybe Anakin's he's gonna turn out fine. He's gonna have this good relationship with his Padawan Ahsoka, and he's gonna lead the Republic to a victory. But then season 4 and season 5, they just kind of deconstruct that. They're like, okay, you know what? Did you forget that Anakin's not a very amazing person when it comes to letting go of things? They take that, they make it a very a very apparent fault for him, and they let it consume his actions. And they in those 2 seasons. So I think it's perfectly fine to say that he did change. It's just sort of I don't know, like a 360.
I would still think his things when it comes to attachment are definitely still there. Obviously, you see him with Padme and all that. I think there's also moments where he still uses like the dark side. Like early on, I think he did like a forced choke on some sort of separatist leader. I believe during the interrogation.
Toggle.
I think. When you say Latavian Dragon, or was that Replica Films?
No, it's Fighting Expert.
Oh, okay. Huh? Okay, yeah, no, I thought, someone just interjected something.
Oh, Fighting, why is he here?
I don't know, more to the party, I guess, more the merrier.
Okay.
I guess, I don't know. I think he's waiting for, once we mention fighting. I don't know.
Yeah, you heard us talking about military combat. I need to talk about
I would say Anakin choking Poggle is his best, like, evil man moment in the show, because it shows that he's willing to betray his morals to save his Padawan.
Yeah.
I don't know about, like, there are other moments in the show that I think are pretty good at, like, showing his sort of immorality. I think there are moments that are not very good at showing how immoral he is, but I think that one's like the best.
Okay, yeah. I also remember when he also killed the guy that was about to blow up the ship. This is the episode where it's like Satine. I think it's like one of the first Satine episodes, and it's like Satine are bickering back and forth because they're like
temptation. Yeah, I think that one's perfectly. It just fine. Like, it isn't really. It's not like good or bad either way.
Isn't that like season 1 and like isn't that in the earlier seasons, like 1 from 3?
Season 2, like halfway in.
Yeah, because you
I
said
really see that like they kind of try to play it as like, oh yeah, Anakin's kind of dark. It's like I don't really think so. I think that's just a weird moment because him killing a guy with a detonator in his hand, who's going to blow up the entire ship. I think that's perfectly logical to be like, okay, this guy might blow up the ship like in 5 seconds. I have a very quick and decisive timetable, which is I could try to like rationalize the situation, or I could try some sort of force trick, or I could just kill the guy.
Why couldn't he cut off his arm?
Hmm?
Why couldn't he just cut off his arm with a detonator in it?
Because I don't know. I just
Yeah, and this goes back to your original point because you said that by 4, 5, and 6, you see more of that him kind of being that insecure of loss, or him like having those dark.
Yeah, I just think that moment
happens early on in the show too.
I just think it's kind of a weird moment, not a Anakin is becoming worse moment.
Okay.
But I think like the main sort of like apex of like his sort of Anakin becoming good is season 3, where he kind of realizes that when Ahsoka is like alone on the Trandoshan island when she's being hunted, and then at the end of the season, Ahsoka's like, you know what, you've trained me really well. I used those lessons, and I was able to survive. And Anakin kind of like, okay, I don't need to always be over everyone's shoulder. I can trust that people will do the right thing. And then you see in the initial episode,
Padme with Clovis.
What?
He doesn't trust Padme with Clovis.
Well, that's in season 6.
Yeah, no. So like later on, so the progression though.
But then it's kind of like I would say like season 3 is like the peak Anakin. Like, okay, I can trust people. Then season 4, or not trust people, but like I don't have to be as attached. But season 4 onward, it's like that kind of slow regression into it's the lack of awareness that he can let go. He just goes back into a state of, oh man, I don't know, I can't really.
Yeah, but what about the Obi-Wan undercover arc? Because he's super attached to Obi-Wan there and gets super mad, and that's like kind of a way for Palpatine to get closer to Anakin. So he's still kind of insecure about, like lost there. I think he's still.
It's not necessarily, but again, it's like I totally think that Anakin would do that. I mean, he learned that the Council basically just fed him a bunch of stupidity. Which, although in fairness, I think that the Council should have told him that Obi-Wan was alive.
Agreed.
That was a dumb move on their part. However, it is perfectly consistent for Anakin to be like, "Oh my god, what?
Oh yeah, it is
happened."
Oh yeah, no, I agree with you there. I guess when it comes to progression, though, as a character, he's still relatively the same character throughout the series, and there's no really like him like.
I guess I think that there are varying degrees to which I think season 3 Anakin and season 5 Anakin are not the exact same person. I think that there is a level of like, oh boy, we kind of. I'm not so happy about all this going on. I think the Jedi are being kind of weird. However, I don't have the do not have the courage to express how I feel. I don't think it'll end well. Versus season 3, where he's like, he's really openly honest with. I mean, I wouldn't say honest, but more so. I would say he's more open to the idea that he can let Ahsoka go. And he also if you see season 4 like the Water War arc, or there's like Gyria arc, or even kind of carrying over into like Onderon, he's in season 5 is like he trusts Ahsoka with more responsibility. I think I think that is more of a progression versus season 2 when he could barely even let her do her own debriefing.
Yeah, something about the debriefing. I know they let Ahsoka do a lot of interesting tasks in the show. It always made me laugh. in the Mandalore arc when Ahsoka goes to Mandalore and she has to teach the other 14-year-olds about government corruption. I always found that hilarious because she thinks she's overqualified for that. I'm like, what does she know about government corruption? Like, she's 14 trying to teach a class of junior high kids.
Yeah, that episode always stuck out to me as weird. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
All it had me screaming in my head was because I had like a professor, and you're supposed to dress nice for presentations, and you see Ahsoka in her crop top teaching them about government corruption. So that always made me laugh right there.
Yeah, I agree. That episode is I believe there are solid aspects of that episode, but the fact that it's Ahsoka teaching everybody is just so strange.
It is, yeah.
I think that Olmec is like a really compelling character in the Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and I think he's really understated. So I think his motivations in that episode are really solid, and I think the build-up of like the reveal of his character being like a traitor is really solid.
Okay, yeah.
The fact that Ahsoka doing all of this, that always bothered me.
Okay, yeah. Okay. And then I always remember Ahsoka got the assignment to, because she was in the jail cell with Luminara during the whole thing where the Gungans got there, and she also got assigned in season 1 to command a space fleet where she didn't follow orders well. I'm like, she's 14 years old. I mean, if she was 18 doing this, I could understand, but she's 14. I'm like, that's really young.
They were pretty basic instructions for her to follow, which was attack a spaceship. And then they say, okay, Ahsoka, you know what, just retreat. And then she's like, no, we got this. I don't think they were predicting the fact that Ahsoka would that like 2 more separatist ships would just appear, and then Ahsoka would just be completely out of her depth. I mean, like, her assignment was pretty simple, which was attack the leftmost cruiser to give us an opening.
Well, you're giving them an opening, and granted, you're giving a 14-year-old the responsibility of like other soldiers' life out there, and it costs a lot of clones' lives. And I would say that maybe she's a little young for that. I would say maybe if she was 18, I would have been perfectly fine with that.
Stealth was that dangerous until we have ships now. We got 4 ships instead of like 5, or not. We have instead of like 2. Like, and I think,
could I also throw a historical fact in?
Why not?
What the fuck?
Yeah, I just think that at 14, this is like the Grand Army of the Republic. They have a ton of resources and all of that. Usually when you see children in combat, it's or at least especially leading troops, I would say it's usually countries that are, or at least compared to our world, they're usually very desperate at the time. They have very limited resources. I just think that,
I mean, to be fair, I don't think the Jedi Council are the most moral people on the planet. So like, it's like, you know what? Just have Ahsoka lead a mission, because
it's more incompetent than moral, I would say.
Also, the fact that if you look throughout history, you had very young kings or princes leading armies.
I don't.
They had people to oversee them, though. They had. I
mean, Ahsoka had somewhere to oversee her. I mean, like Admiral Yoda and Anakin Skywalker, basically, okay, you know what? You're gonna follow our exact instructions on this mission. Just have it go well. Like, it wasn't like,
I feel like Ahsoka of all people, because by that point they know that she might not be the best at following orders. That was established in the TCW movie, and I believe the TCW movie is obviously it's before that, because that's the first time Anakin meets Ahsoka. So I just think that they know that so she shouldn't be in that situation.
Like her only directive in that battle was destroy, like do an attack run on one of the cruisers. I think that's perfectly reasonable for someone like Ahsoka.
I think it's easier said than done, though.
Maybe but it's less about her following orders, because I think, one, who doesn't want to destroy a separatist battle cruiser, especially if like you're a 14-year-old excited kid, just like that's just going to be the mission. Like, oh yeah, you know what, I'm gonna destroy that cruiser. 2, I think I mean she had a squadron of pilots backing her, and she like willingly consented to the mission.
She was kind of given the order to, yeah, and I would say, why couldn't they have like some sort of Jedi Master there at that certain point in time to lead troops? Because I think that's more reasonable. Or heck, have a clone captain who is much more trained that actually has been training all their life for these kind of moments.
Perhaps I really don't. I really understand. Like, again, the mission was pretty simple, which was, oh yeah, we just need to destroy one of the cruisers. That's it. It's like had say Ahsoka just failed their mission and had to like retreat. It wouldn't really change much because the blockade, as far as they were aware, was not powerful enough on their reserve ships, and it wouldn't really be a net loss for them. I mean, they would lose like a couple ships maybe. So it's like the mission wasn't disastrous, and Ahsoka had to get out in the field at some point. So why not at this moment?
Well, yeah. Basically, how that arc or episode/arc ends is how basically Anakin has to think of like a 200 IQ play, and it's kind of like a silly 200 IQ play where he basically goes, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna forfeit your ship," and then like the other generals or for the separatists is like very like kind of confused because like, oh okay, he kind of incompetently kind of accepts it, and then like it just kind of crashes in there. And also this is like a big battle for like a blockade where people's lives are at stake. When you're the Republic, you might as well put an adult there, and she should be like maybe on the mission. I don't mind her because she does have like superpowers, but like superpowers obviously like force and all that, as like maybe not as someone with responsibility. Yeah, but I want to continue more on Ahsoka just because Ahsoka is such a big part of Clone Wars. Is that fine, Latavian?
Fine.
Okay.
Airborne, is that fine?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about Ahsoka, her being Anakin's Padawan creates a whole lot of problems.
I think it's I think it only becomes a problem when you get to like season 7, and it kind of like creates tears between Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars. However, I will defend the Clone Wars by saying that it was not Siege of Mandalore was actually referenced in Star Wars Rebels first.
Mm-hmm.
So, if anything, that was the cause of the problem. Season 7 was just following the guidelines that Rebels established. But I think before that, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I realizing something that season 6 would have been the perfect ending for the series.
I think season 5 would have been better, but season 6 also works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Season 7 kind of fucks things. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Go on, Dragon.
The last arc of season 6 is just, I don't know, kind of leaves it open ended. So you could probably
It wraps up things. It kind of wraps up the main thesis of the show pretty well. Where like Yoda's kind of realizing that, oh man, this entire war is kind of horrible, but I found a way to avoid all of it. The Jedi should be able to rise to rise above what we've become, and that's like, okay, that's kind of a cool ending. And you got like the fade out to black. And it feels very final versus season 7, which is like, oh yeah, 3 random arcs. Here you go.
Yeah. I want to just mention something about season 5 finale because that's considered like one of the best arcs of the Clone Wars. Correct? I mean, obviously, I know people all have different preferences and all that. What were you gonna say?
Which arc is the best? Like one of the best ones?
Season 5 finale when Ahsoka leaves.
I
don't think that, but
I think it's overall pretty good. However, there is one glaring issue with the arc that I can't really ignore, which is Barriss Offee.
Oh yes.
However, I think everything else in that arc is pretty good. So I think it's overall like 7.5, 8 out of 10.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. Thing. Oh, go on.
You should have made a video about that arc, not the Obi-Wan undercover arc.
I am going to cover that arc pretty soon. And since season 7's underway, I'm going to make an entire season 7 review, which is going to be pretty long. So I got to do that.
Yeah. Hope Hope you don't make some.
Did you see in your video that like your script is like 100 pages long or something?
Yeah, my script for my season 7 review, I looked at it. It's 135 pages long. It's like over 30,000 words. Yeah, I worked on it for months though.
What the hell? How long is that going to be?
I'm going to guess 2 hours plus.
135 pages.
It's going to be like a Mauler video almost, because I feel like, to make those videos long, you know how people will put down comments on people's videos and be like, they will how do I say this? They will have their counter arguments. They'll bring it up. I know ER does the same thing. So sometimes when someone says a counter argument, which I assume will come up, I'll say, well, that doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z. So you have to put that
right.
in.
I'm currently working on a critical analysis of the Star Wars: The Clone Wars film, which I think, but honestly, I think that's only going to be like an hour and a half long video. But that's
like
still like
movie,
20.
Yeah, it's the movie's length, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But the thing is, what are you like using like a really large font size or something? Because like, holy fuck, 135 pages.
What is
My
it?
font size is like, it's like 11 REL. I have it right here. Hold on. Yeah, it's 11 REL. Yeah, 1 of 35. How many what's the word count?
Yeah, even with the normal size font, it's pretty long.
It's close to 40,000. It's 39,000. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's kind of double space, kind of not. So
the thing is, I have like it's like 25 pages.
That's pretty long though for a video.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
So yeah,
it's like it's 15,000 words, but it's like, I mean, it is like font size 12. It's like 15,000 words, which not nearly as many as 39,000. But the weird thing is like 25 pages is quite a bit smaller than 135. I find that just interesting.
It is. It's because mine's kind of double space, kind of not. So when I'm in Audacity and all that, and I do like have the editing, I write down sometimes like a sentence or two is gonna be, and then I make a cut. So sometimes before I make a cut, it might be like a 3-line statement, or there might be ones where it's just like a couple words on a line. So it kind of varies, and then so it kind of goes like that. So it kind of is double spacing, but kind of not like.
Yeah. Character of Ahsoka Tano.
To go on topics, I know Latavian Dragon was kind of loafing it there.
Yeah.
Do you want to start off first, or do you want me to start off?
The floor is yours.
Okay. So my issue with her in the season 5 finale arc is the reason why she left. There's really no lead up of the Jedi Council being really all that mean to her, or really anything establishing it. The only time I really remember Ahsoka really bringing up like kind of questioning kind of like the Jedi like order is questioning how Anakin does things, how he kind of does things a little bit contrarian to how a lot of clones, and she does that when she's talking to Barriss during that whole like zombie slug episode where they get infected. Yeah, and that's like the really only moment, and she's always like thankful for Anakin, for instance, for his training and all of that. And by season's 5 finale arc, she leaves because she didn't like how the Jedi Council went through due process. And I get it that she was innocent, but there was a lot of evidence against her, and I didn't think that was very like, she just was really not understanding right there.
Well, I mean, I would say in isolation, what really happened was that the Council expelled her from the Jedi Order at the request of the Senate. Like, what happened in that little hearing that they had? The Jedi didn't actually like because she knew that they already just came to a decision. The way that she was interrogated, and even Anakin says it's like this meeting is just a formality. It's like I think she's smart enough to realize that the Jedi Council here is basically just gaslighting her into leaving the Jedi Order. I think that on its own is pretty terrible. I would also say that after that she proves that she's innocent, there are only two people that apologize. One, Anakin, her master. Two would be Plo Koon, the person who brought her to the Jedi Temple. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, Stacey Tin, Yoda, and Mace Windu. They don't really apologize to her. In fact, Mace Windu basically says, we believe that this was actually your great trial. And if he hadn't gone through this, he wouldn't have been as good as a Jedi. Him excusing the fact that he was going to expel Ahsoka Tano from the Jedi Order just so that the Senate could persecute her for penalty of death, I think that's pretty awful in isolation. But all of those things, if we're just to take that arc by itself, I think that's grounds enough for her leaving. But on top of that, there are moments throughout seasons 4 and 5 where there are characters that have discussions with her, characters that change her perspective. The first one probably be Lux Bonteri. The Republic couldn't do anything to save his mother, or to persecute the fact that she was dead, because the Republic can't see the Separatists as a legitimate state. They can't do anything about they can't do anything but the fact that Lux doesn't like the Separatists, but he's also a Separatist, and he's not a Separatist, but he doesn't really like the Republic either, and the Republic won't acknowledge the fact that people like him exist, and so I think that's a small part of it. Another one is Onderon. She's kind of realizing that the Jedi don't have as much of a reach as she thought that they did. I mean, the people of Onderon basically have to revolt by themselves without the help of the Jedi. In fact, the Jedi basically tell her that, oh yeah, you can't help defend these people because the political intricacies of the Republic versus the Separatists just don't allow you to. It's like, I think that probably changes her perspective. I think the fact that the Jedi are so spread thin during the war, during the Youngling arc, the fact that the Jedi themselves can't come to help her, but a group of younglings was able to. I think that says a lot about how they operate, what they value, and I think that's certainly that would certainly push her towards. Oh yeah, maybe I don't like the Jedi very much, but even if we're just talking about what she says just talking about what happens in her final arc, I think it's reasonable. But taking into account the things that she's learned
right
from,
there. I don't know. I think there might be something.
What?
Sorry, the connection is a little shaky. But I got what you're saying about the whole thing about Onderon, about how Lux Bonteri, and how how her perspectives were kind of changing, and how the Republic kind of handles their business versus how maybe she gets a different perspective. Well, one thing for here is to address the Republic is the Techno Union you see in Attack of the Clones obviously being evil, but then they eventually declare for neutrality, and so they actually they're not viewed. It's not as black and white as they see it right there. So I think that's definitely something to acknowledge, that I don't think even people that do work for the Separatists.
The Union vying for neutrality was what allowed them to was what allowed them to operate a secret covert mission to deliver information to the Battle of Anaxis. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of the Republic, having its balls drop off.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. You can argue that. Yeah, I think the bigger question is the Techno Union also makes weapons for the Republic, and the Republic looks like their weapons are much better than the CIS. I'll just leave that out there. But I think when it comes to the whole idea is they're still a little bit more willing, and I would say they still technically help out the rebels on that planet. The one where I think it's like they literally the city of Isis. No joke, that's what the city's called. And basically, she does do help the rebellion. They do teach them tactics. They just can't intervene because of politics and all of that. And
but I think it's perfectly within Ahsoka's character. I mean, she's inherently a very helpful person. So the fact that that the Jedi Code is preventing her from preventing the Jedi from outwardly helping these people take back their planet, I think that sends a message to her of what the Jedi value.
Okay. So I think one thing for sure is I think you do see that maybe in the Siege of Mandalore where she's I even know the scene's bad, but I get what you're saying where basically she argues with Obi-Wan and argues with Anakin about mostly Obi-Wan about fighting a war on Mandalore, even though they're not a part of it.
I really don't like that argument. It's so dumb.
The argument on my argument or Ahsoka's?
No, the Ahsoka's like in season 7. I really hate it.
Oh yeah,
I'm with you
yeah,
there
fuck
too.
that one.
Yeah, no.
But I think it's perfectly fine for her to be like it's a different story for Onderon because it's not like choosing between the vitality of the Republic and helping some people out on Mandalore. It's choosing between doing something and doing nothing at all.
Yeah, I guess like she always likes to want to take action. So I can kind of see that how she kind of progresses in that way. But I would say when it comes to really back to the season 5 arc where basically she doesn't really go where basically the evidence against her, it looks like she's pretty guilty and they put her under due process. And then you got Padme, you got also Anakin there helping her trying to get through it. And then she kind of does things a little bit. She gets tricked with the whole key card thing and then tries to run away and all that because she's scared of stuff. Even though it was in season 4 during the Water Wars, she always tells people, "Oh, you need to be patient and you got to be fair." Yet she's not being patient at all or anything like that.
I think it's fair to say that when someone is so obviously setting you up, it might not be. I think it is a bit weird, but I think it's totally within reason for her to assume that Anakin is helping her out because she knows how much, as you said, he knows how much of like he's kind of I don't know, mischievous, a little bit of a rule breaker. So it's really fine for her to assume that Anakin did this versus the person who framed her to put her in jail.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not saying the person that framed her is
I think it's totally reasonable for her to assume, like, okay, someone is like framing me. I need to find out who it is. Staying in this jail cell is not going to help.
Yeah, but she's always talking about Jedis are always about patience is a virtue and all that.
I don't think that Ahsoka is a very patient person. I think.
Yeah, but she tries to come off as one during the whole Water Wars arc, which I just find hilarious. When she's
but I think it's a bit different in this scenario where it's like strategically important for them to be patient versus in this scenario where. I am staying in a jail cell with the same person that tried to choke me, that tried to choke the person who died right next to me out. I don't think it's a very good place to be.
Yeah, no, I just think her leaving and then her running away from it just makes her look even more guilty because she's trying to escape. Essentially, she doesn't think there's a way out. Like for instance,
it's going to lead her back into the same jail cell. She's already killed clone troopers. It's like, okay, why stay here? Why remain in the same place
right now?
What could very much happen is the fact that I get put back in the same jail cell with either one, the person who just killed somebody, or I get nothing done.
I think you're gonna have to sorry, Airborne, I think you're gonna have to repeat that just because
yeah. All right. I think it's like, I mean, it's not, I don't know about the most well-informed decision, but staying inside our jail cell, one, I mean, somebody is within the prison walls trying to like out there either doing more bad stuff or might kill her next, which I think is a very bad position to be in. I also think, I mean, there's also the fact that she would just simply get nothing done inside of her jail cell.
Yeah, but she has to wait though, because running away will just make her look all guilty. She's also in a Republic compound.
It does make her look like more guilty, yes. However, that's just, I think it's perfectly reasonable to not want to stay inside the prison when someone is within the prison.
I mean, Anakin is trying to help you, though, and Anakin's a pretty powerful Jedi and all that. I think she should trust. She also has a member on the Senate defending her, so she's got power on her side.
I'm not aware at that point that she's going to be put on trial or anything. It's just the fact that there is somebody within the prison there, it's like, oh yeah, I don't want to be near them.
Okay. Well, I would say
Anakin is within the jail, but that could just lead to Anakin getting hurt. That could lead to the fact that that could lead to possibly that could possibly just play right into the hands of whatever fucking assailant is within the prison walls.
Yeah. I would also justify is if let's just say Anakin actually just put the key guard down there hypothetically. I mean, once she escapes and they know she escapes, that makes Anakin look guilty too. And Anakin is like hinted to be like, the chosen one and all that. I don't think he would want to put himself in that situation either.
Does it make Anakin look guilty? I mean,
it does, because if let's just say Ahsoka thinks that's Anakin putting that left that key card for her.
Yeah, but would she tell anybody that Anakin left it for her? I mean, she might. Yeah, no, Anakin tried to do that. She's far too loyal to Anakin to pull something like that.
Maybe so, but it does why would Anakin put jeopardy on his career by sneaking into a Republic compound where he could get caught and give her a key card to escape, where he can just use as evidence to try to defend her and all of that, because he does have a senator on his side. I
suppose that is a bit strange. However, it's just the fact that right now Ahsoka is within prison walls, and again, there's somebody in there, a Jedi / whoever, trying to frame her for her crimes and or possibly just kill her.
Yeah, she could just get Anakin to hunt down this person, because Anakin's a pretty skilled, Jedi.
True, but that wouldn't. That's just. I don't know if that's very viable. Even if she's like, okay, guys, I think there's a second Jedi inside the prison. Yeah, sure, maybe Anakin would believe that. I don't think anybody else would.
Could Anakin go looking for this Jedi or something? And also, Anakin has power. He could technically just go searching. They do go on missions. First, Padme goes on a mission to try to solve the murder of her senator friend. So that's not out of her character at all. And I know
it's possible. However, Ahsoka would there would be the same thing with Ahsoka is just stuck in this prison for crimes that she didn't commit.
I mean, it's better to be stuck there than to escape and look even more guilty.
I don't think so, especially again
because escaping from prison looks kind of guilty. Like Ted Bundy tried to escape prison a few times and all that. So
fair enough, but I think it's okay. So I think it's my master trying to break me out. So all right, I'll see what he's got planned. Oh, maybe it wasn't my master trying to break me out, but at this point within the chase, I've got the entire military garrison looking for me. I don't think it's a great idea to return back to everybody, because they think that I've killed clone troopers. I'm gonna be put on trial, and I'm gonna look very, very guilty.
I mean, yeah, you could. I mean, it is. I mean, if you look guilty, but also leaving and escaping makes her look extremely guilty. I mean,
it does, but again, when she assumes that Anakin is doing it for her, I assume she thinks that Anakin has a plan. When she realizes that it's not Anakin doing it, it's oh boy, it looks like I've just murdered a bunch of clones. And
why doesn't Anakin tell her?
Why
doesn't Anakin tell her? Or communicate something to Padme? And Padme will break rules. She does establish that she doesn't follow rules if she thinks it's right. I mean, she's literally sleeping with a member on the Jedi Council.
What are you referring to specifically?
Say that again? You broke up for a second.
What are you referring to specifically when you mean that,
she doesn't...
When Anakin Padme could do something?
So basically, Padme, for instance, where her senator friend got assassinated, she went against protocol and went searching herself for the assailant.
Right.
And then also, she also is sleeping with Anakin, which is
okay,
sketchy. So
what does it relate to in the Ahsoka arc exactly? I'm not getting the connection.
So you know how Padme does kind of like breaks rules and stuff like that. So when she like communicates
I get
something
that.
to her about this plan instead of just leaving
we-
a key card and just letting her figure it out on her own.
But Anakin didn't actually leave the key card.
I know, but like from her point of view, wouldn't she like, like at least have that communicated to her, at least Padme or someone? Like
What
just
do you
to
mean?
communicate the plan to
Like-
her, like, hey, if you're gonna escape, this is what you're gonna do.
But what is the plan? How are they going to communicate?
Well, they give her. Well, you know how they're in the jail cell and Padme's like trying to act as a
Right.
lawyer. They're trying to communicate. Anakin's down with
Well,
her too.
That's not in episode 1. That's in episode 4 of the arc. Like when she gets captured for the second time.
Yeah, like she's in the arc, or like have Padme there to like
But at that point, Ahsoka wasn't being put on trial. She was just being held within the prison. So it's not, Padme couldn't show up at that point. Ahsoka couldn't. I don't think Ahsoka gets her one phone call in that Republic prison. She can't like contact Padme.
Yeah, no, I
Like,
mean, yeah, but to assume that
specifically-
Anakin will just give her a key card for her to break out is a little bit
Oh, you're saying that like Ahsoka assuming that Anakin was the one that did it is
Yeah.
that's what
yeah, to just get
again,
break the rules.
that's a different issue beyond her like running away, because I think again it is strange that she assumes that Anakin does it, but assuming like just going off of the fact that she is assuming it, I think everything after is perfectly logical. You've already been set up to kill that you've killed like 3 clone troopers, and you've injured a bunch of others. Like, you're going to be in a very bad spot if you return back to prison. It is much better to be like, okay, I can prove my innocence. I can show that it wasn't me. I can't do that.
Escaping prison?
Sorry,
Escaping prison will prove her innocence?
not the act itself, but she can't prove her innocence.
Okay,
Well,
maybe. Well, that's what she has to leave Anakin up to do. And Anakin, she knows about how Anakin is like emotionally and how he can be very sentimental and can be very he is like a good friend in the show. So I think that just trust your friends to carry it out. So I just didn't think it was a very logical move, and for her, and I think this kind of leads up to her getting leaked.
Possible, but I don't know. I don't know at that point that she would actively like trust that. I mean, yes, Anakin could go out and find the person themselves. However, what would Anakin be looking for?
Well, basically someone to set her up. So you basically be like, looking around the compound or
looking for a person with force powers. That ought to narrow it down.
I mean, it kind of does. Well, first things first, it's only council members, so
Why
relatively
would it be?
close.
Why would it be a council member?
Because most council members have who are the people that have force powers on Coruscant?
Anybody that's a Jedi.
So the people in
Which
the
would-
council and the people like in the
There
temple.
would be like they're not the only people that live in the Jedi Temple.
Those are not the only Jedi that live in Coruscant.
No, Barros is the one that
Okay.
does all of this. She's not part of the Jedi
But
Council.
she's a part of the Jedi temple, though. Correct?
Yeah, the Jedi.
So the council and the
That's-
temple
that's
are kind of obviously if you're part of the council, that's like the people that make the decisions and all that. They're like final say.
That's like I don't know, maybe a few hundred Jedi to comb through. What evidence do you have that any of them did it?
I mean, it's a few hundred, so you're up to a couple, and then you can locate people that maybe went by, maybe someone that got into late. You can inquire about people that came in late, because for instance, let's just say Ahsoka, let's just say killed, quote unquote, killed the assailant. Not saying she did, but that's what she was saying when the person died around 3 p.m. Let's just say someone said, "Oh, I saw so and so leave at 3 p.m." and then they go in there for questioning.
I think
did eventually go out and
Snuck
hunt Barris down.
but specifically, Barris snuck into the prison. She didn't like enter naturally.
Okay,
That
yeah, no, I agree there. But like, someone could have said that, oh yeah, she came back to her room and calmed down, and someone could say that, oh yeah, maybe she was acting suspicious. Like, there's other ways to narrow it down.
I mean, we don't really know that she would be acting suspicious. Surely she would keep her composure during that kind of situation. I mean,
And also the Jedi, can't they sense stuff?
since what?
They almost have like a, I don't want to say like a spidey sense or a sixth sense, but they can kind of like sense that there's a disturbance here or something that's not right.
Yeah, that is fair enough. However, I don't think I don't think that they can just discern literally anything from that. I mean, from what we see in Empire Strikes Back, when two people are sensing each other, they're like openly communicating with each other, or sort of like they're forming a connection. I don't think that Barriss would try to talk to Ahsoka or Anakin to be like, "Oh, hey guys, I'm in the prison. I'm here. Hi, how are you?"
Also, they can talk to Barriss because Barriss is a friend of Ahsoka, and Anakin would know that. And why doesn't he talk to Ahsoka about this? Like, was there any sign of Ahsoka committing murder or anything like that? Or
What do you mean?
ask,
When do you have the ability to talk to Ahsoka?
I mean, to talk to Barriss. So basically, Barriss is friends with Ahsoka, and so know how there could be, how there's like people for during like a crime scene, they're looking for motivation for a kill. So, for instance, like if you ever seen Forensic Files, when they talk about it, like when a wife kills a husband, it might be because they have a really good life insurance policy, and then she can get money out of it or something. There's some sort of motivation there, and they sometimes will inquire about friends and colleagues. Like, yeah, there's some issues with like their marriage and all of that, so that's why it can lead to steps. So you're trying to look for motivation.
Perhaps, however, I mean, it's possible that they did interrogate Barriss and just didn't find anything. Like, what would Barriss have to give up at that point? I mean, we know that Anakin, what Anakin did when in the season 5 finale, which is what he did was like, okay, he knew that that the killer stole a bunch of his lightsabers. So if I attack Barriss and she pulls out some lightsabers, oh man, that would be pretty incriminating evidence.
Yeah, well, he eventually does do that.
But what evidence would they have to go off of that Barriss is the killer beyond that? Because she doesn't have the lightsabers yet.
Well, they can at least, talk to her about like Ahsoka and get some like leads and get some steps to it. Like they honestly, Anakin and Padme can do a little bit of detective work.
I just don't think that would change anything, because I think Barriss wouldn't give up any information that would contradict with her plan.
Well, yeah, but you can get some sort of ideas where it's just like, oh yeah, she came back. You can get a certain idea, but let's just say you ask her and then ask someone that saw her, and let's just say there's contradicting information. That could be something, and then you can check. You have to basically, detective work is a very tedious process, yes, but you have to keep on going by steps. There is ways that they could do it. Obviously, the Jedis have the senses to sense certain things is up, that something's not right, and they can do all sorts of things. And they have resources and all that. Like they have credits and stuff. Like, they can hire private investigators.
Draw me like a hypothetical scenario of a time where, like, just say a parallel universe. They interrogate Barriss, and it gives them information that would change the events of the story.
So basically, they talk to, basically kind of like some of the stuff I've already said. They go to her room, they talk to her because she's friends with Ahsoka. I'm not saying they know that she is it. They're just kind of just doing some questioning to see like, oh yeah, what was up? Was there anything strange about Ahsoka and all of that? And since Anakin knows Ahsoka, let's just say Barriss says something about Ahsoka, like, oh yeah, no, she was experiencing like things about like anger and like hate towards the Jedi, and Anakin can be like, well, that doesn't really sound like her, but okay, that's what we have to go off
wait a
of.
minute. But why would Barriss say that?
Well, because Barriss is trying to make Ahsoka maybe look guilty to get it off her trail.
Perhaps I don't think, but like the problem with that is, if she is aware of who Ahsoka is, I don't think that like she's gonna be openly lying to Ahsoka's basically best friend Anakin. Like, yeah, she's talking about killing Jedi. Just trust me, bro. I don't think that'd be smart.
I mean, yeah, no, she was just saying it was very private, that she was too embarrassed to tell her own master that because she wants to,
I think that's just kind of a what if scenario, not necessarily like that could happen, but I don't think it would.
Well, I'll say this much: Anakin can obviously do some detective work where he can talk to people like Bear. It's not saying do like anything like accusing her or anything without any hard evidence, but just talk around the council about what they saw and all of that, and really just look into it more. Obviously, she could trust Anakin and trust Padme to just try to find resources and just give them time to work things out.
Perhaps, but I don't. I mean, it also does. I don't think it would sit well with Ahsoka that that there was like a killer out there that's trying to frame people, and probably the person that bombed the Jedi Temple. I mean, if we see in Lightsaber Lost, like she's incredibly petulant and impatient, just like she's in dread about the fact that this person now has a lightsaber, and any person that they kill with that saber is just that's gonna be blood on her hands. I think it's kind of the same thing where it's just like, yeah, there's this killer on the loose, and I am doing nothing to try and stop them.
Well, number one, she's in a situation where she's in a jail cell, and the con of that is she escapes. She's in a really tight, strict compound where basically they're going to find out that she's going to leave pretty soon, and that's what happens. And I think she should be well aware of that. And ideally, you have Anakin. You have plenty of other, Anakin out there who's a very skilled Jedi who, by that point in the show, wins a lot of his duels and all that. And what are the chances that would be Dooku? What was the chances that would be like Dooku or something like that, like framing her, where it could just be like some person that betrayed the Jedi, and Anakin could probably take them.
I mean, to be fair, like the last person that betrayed the Jedi was General Pong Krell, the like insanely powerful Jedi.
That is true.
Ever.
He did very well against clone troopers.
I don't think that's a very good reference point for like Jedi.
He did very well against clone troopers. I don't know how well he does in a duel though against another Jedi.
But the point is, like, I mean, I don't think that Ahsoka would just leave that up to Anakin, especially when she knows she can do something about it.
Well, she is valuing patience in the Water Wars arc and all that.
Because it offered strategic value. She didn't have a personal stake in the Water War arc.
Well, she kind of has to win that war. She's fighting against the CIS.
Yeah, she did, but it's not a personal conflict to her. It's just it's a war, it's basically the Spider-Man thing. That's just if I let people die when it's possible that I can prevent that, then I should be doing that.
Okay, yeah. I'll say this much. Basically, she still has stakes in that because she is like a soldier fighting in combat there. And so she obviously has to get her side to win. So she does have personal stakes there. She's fighting in that. Also, she could potentially die in that water war. So there is personal stakes there.
That is true. However, I mean, at that point, if one of her choices is not dying, then being patient and choosing to go into hiding is more of an informed choice at that point because she's preserving herself. She's surviving.
She could also get killed by clone troopers. Yeah, are you talking about Water War? Or are you talking about?
I'm talking about Water War because you said if you're saying that like one of her instincts in that in the Water War is to not die, then charging in blindly or not being patient would be the antithesis of not dying.
Well, she wants the right strategy, yes or no? She wants the right one.
Strategy?
Correct? Yeah, she wants to make the correct decision, correct? I mean,
Sure.
Doesn't everyone?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, in that sense, she's valuing it. Her character's a little bit kind of inconsistent. I know she's kind of supposed to be this character where she's like, maybe not super strong when it comes to like might, but she's someone that's supposed to have a little bit of a sense of morals, but obviously not always like in the sense where she
I don't think that they're exactly equivalent scenarios because one is like, okay, you know what? Let's just wait for
Okay.
the opportune moment to attack versus letting other people do it for me when, that's
I
just not the
mean,
like
letting other people
she's
do it
not
for her.
letting during the Water War arc, she is not like leaving her fate in the hands of other people.
Well, she is in a situation where she has to like kind of guide the prince, the guy, the
Okay,
heir to
there's
the
some
king.
serious echoing.
Yeah. Is that from my
Probably.
mic? Or
No, well, it's
Yeah, keep going. I'll fix it.
okay, yeah, but yeah, no, I hate when that echo happens. It happens to me sometimes. But basically, yeah, I just really just don't see how, her trying to like take action where she could just wait and all that. And she definitely was trying to take action in that scenario with the whole thing about trying to solve the bombing run. And look what happened to her. So she really just didn't learn from her mistake right there. And I think that with Anakin, who's super attached to people, is obviously going to be motivated to save Ahsoka. So I think, and also Anakin's super powerful in the Force, and she also has a super high opinion of Anakin. Like she didn't leave the council because of Anakin.
No. That was probably like her one reason. That was like her one stake for saying, which was Anakin. But I think the point is that like that point. I mean, if we're strictly talking about her just not leaving at all, like not even picking up the key card to leave, that I can sort of agree with. But at the point where it just becomes, at the point where she's framed for the murdering of clone troopers, I think at that point it's all right. I am almost undoubtedly going to lose this trial if I take place in it, and it's probably going to be a very fast speed trial. It's not going to be great for me. I should probably escape. So I mean, the thing is, if Ahsoka runs, that increases the timetable for Anakin and Padme to like begin their investigation, hypothetically. Whereas if she surrenders and accepts, the fact that she's probably getting persecuted for penalty of death or like indefinite incarceration, if it is penalty of death, which she should be very aware of, she's basically just putting a time limit on Anakin and Padme. Versus when she's running, she's extending the time limit for this hypothetical investigation to take place.
I think to extend the time limit would, well, usually how you extend a time limit for that, if you're in that situation, what Ted Bundy did was basically he when he murdered a bunch of people, he would admit to certain murders and it would be like all their bodies right there, and that would essentially buy him more time and all that. Obviously, she wouldn't do that in that situation because she wouldn't know about it. I would say when it comes to the trial is why would she when she was set up for murder, she was in the jail cell when that happened. So why would she leave knowing that there's someone loose in the jail cell somewhere, some other force where, this could easily set her up and just make her guilty?
And she like one, she does assume that Anakin is the one that gave her the key card. And
but isn't that a little bit silly though? Because
I can agree that it is not a very well informed decision that she assumes that it is Anakin, but she does assume that it's Anakin. So it's like I think it's a bit different. I mean, I think we've kind of gotten off from the main point, which is Ahsoka's motivation for leaving the Order, which I think at this point we're no longer disputing the fact that her motivation is inconsistent. We're disputing this decision of leaving the jail cell.
Okay, yeah, I'm not trying to get into whataboutery right here. It's just a very pedantic detail that we've obviously gone to a lot.
I don't mean to accuse you of that. It's essentially I just think we have kind of I think at this point the problem is just no longer the fact that Ahsoka's character is inconsistent, especially at least for leaving the Order. I think it's now about a different topic altogether.
Okay. Well, I think to continue on with that, she gets really mad at the council for following due process on this thing where they have evidence against her that's kind of overwhelmingly against her.
Not exactly. Again,
how so?
What I stated before is one, they expel her from the Jedi Order undoubtedly at the request of the Senate. I mean, That's pretty awful.
Okay, that's the Senate though. That's the Senate though. That's not really the council, and the council has to abide by the government.
But the Senate specifically said, "Oh yeah, you can make up your mind, but we're requesting that."
Okay, yeah, they're requesting that. And also, what's the evidence against Ahsoka is that basically there was a witness there, and the witness died by force choke, and she's the only one there with force powers in that cell. So the evidence is kind of strong against her. So she kind of has to understand that she got framed really good here, and it's not the Jedi's fault.
I totally agree with that, but the reason why the Jedi expelled her is not because of anything that she's being set up for. It was specifically because the Senate requested it, and they want to look good with the Senate. I mean, we see it in Sabotage, the first episode of the arc. Is like, yeah, the everybody is kind of turning against us. So essentially, if we expel Ahsoka Tano from the Jedi Order, we can get in good favor with them again. We can show that we're not like biased. I think no matter how you look at that, Ahsoka Tano would feel incredibly betrayed by that. She's essentially just a tool for the Jedi to gain political power.
So here's a hypothetical situation. What happens if there's no evidence against Ahsoka and they just picked Ahsoka? They think that's her. They have no evidence against her, and the council in the Senate says, "Yeah, you should expel her from that." The council would they do that even if they didn't have any evidence against her?
I mean, I don't necessarily know.
I would say no in that situation because I don't think the council hates Ahsoka that much. It's never led up to that point.
It's not the fact that they hate her. It's just that they're apathetic towards her to the point where they're like, yeah, you know what? Okay, the Senate is kind of up our ass, and we need to change that.
Okay.
I think that's totally fine for them to be like. I mean, it's like Ahsoka. Even if Ahsoka were just to come to the logical conclusion, oh yeah, they probably did it because I looked bad. I just don't think that's how characters operate. They're not like logical robots, or they deduce like. I don't think that like just looking from Ahsoka's perspective, the fact that the Jedi Council does not show any sort of humility at the end of her arc. They're like, yeah, you did a good job, defending yourself against all these accusations. It was a pretty good show you put on, Ahsoka. Just like, I don't think I would take that very well. If they were like, you know what, if they explained like rationally, like, yeah, it did look pretty bad against you, but we do apologize for not believing in you. I think that would be like, okay, you know what? Maybe I might come back into the Order. Maybe not. It's kind of like on the fence at that point. If we're just considering Ahsoka's arc, not even counting like anything else that happened in seasons 4 or 5. If we're just counting season 5, it's like, okay, kind of on the fence. And then Mace Windu's like, oh yeah, we believe that this was actually like your great trial, and the Force moves in mysterious ways, and
Okay.
It's like at that point, it's just like, okay, I don't think Ahsoka wants to be around these people anymore. They're not even humble enough to admit that they were wrong.
Okay, before I go into the climax of the finale, I really want to kind of talk about the whole due process thing. So first things first, they're being very apathetic to Ahsoka. Were there any arcs leading up to this where Ahsoka was being treated apathetically towards her by the council?
Not necessarily. I don't think they ever liked her. I think this
really.
I don't think that this had to necessarily be set up. I think this is just the Jedi are not very emotional. They're kind of in a sense.
They try to make the logical decision. They try to make the wise logical decision.
Yeah, I don't know about logical. It's just them expelling Ahsoka from the Order, regardless of whether or not they feel that she's guilty. That's just going to gain them like favor with the Galactic Senate.
Okay, yeah, but I get it that they get favor from it, but they do have evidence against her, and the evidence is pretty overwhelming when it comes to this.
Yeah, I agree, but again, Ahsoka does realize that that's not why they're expelling her.
No, I think that is definitely the reason why that's expelling her. They wouldn't expel her if they didn't have that evidence.
They were going to give her a fair trial in accordance with Jedi Tribunal, but then Tarkin was like, okay, we're gonna have to request that you expel her. Sorry, she's gone.
Is that because of the law, though?
Okay,
Not the law, it was a request by the Senate. Not it was they were not being forced to. However, if we see from I do kind of have to repeat myself here. If we see from Sabotage, Mace Windu says, "Okay, yeah, public opinion is kind of swaying against us. I think the Jedi would want to maintain some of their favor with the Republic, and that would be a very good way to do it."
Okay, so I know I get they gain favor for it, but reality though is it seems pretty logical for them to expel Ahsoka because what other candidates do they have to get Ahsoka guilty, or or other candidates that would be perceived as guilty in this situation?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really how due process works. You don't find the person who's guilty. You just you either quit or sentence the person as being.
I mean, what other suspects do they have besides Ahsoka?
I mean, there is Ventress within the arc.
Ventress, okay.
That is certainly that is someone that they have.
Was Ventress in the jail cell on video force choking someone or seemingly force choking someone?
No.
Okay, okay, yeah. I just think the evidence was just there.
It was.
Okay.
However, again, that's not why they chose to expel her.
Well, they wouldn't have done it without the evidence, my guy.
I don't think so.
If they didn't have evidence, they'll just assume it's her.
But even so, I don't think that's how Ahsoka would see it.
I think she should see it that there is evidence there. I think that's.
Yeah, but again, but she knows that they simply expelled her to gain favor with the Senate. Whether or not it was helped by the fact that she looked very guilty is irrelevant to her.
I don't think that was just the only reason for their motivation.
It was not the only reason, but it was the reason.
I think the only thing that you could say is that maybe they sped up the trial or draw a conclusion a lot maybe quicker because they're under pressure of the Senate. But so that's because they're following the government and they're following the law. And
not the law. It was a request.
It was a request. Okay.
That looked really bad. But
it does make sense, but the penalty does make sense for her. Like, let's just say she did commit that terrorist attack. It would make sense that she would be expelled. And
yes, it would be, but they didn't actually give her a trial. They just expelled her.
Well, they basically gave her that, and then she was going to go on trial by the Senate.
Yeah, no, but like they said that they would. They said that they would give her a trial in accordance with Jedi tradition. Except that's just not what happened.
I'm pretty sure they gave her they had the whole judge thing, and then she tried to argue her point, and she really couldn't argue it, and so she kind of lost out of it. And also, the evidence is also against her. Like she couldn't win in that situation.
But yes, but it is very obvious to her that the Jedi were just creating the trial as an excuse to expel her because it was requested the Senate.
Okay, yeah, sure. They got the request. I guess the punishment was there, but let's just say there's no request by the Senate there. What would the punishment be for Ahsoka if they knew Ahsoka or they had the evidence to get Ahsoka guilty?
It would undoubtedly be guilty. However, it would probably be seen a lot more fair in her eyes if they gave her an actual fair trial.
Okay.
Just looking at it
I mean, that's how a Jedi trial works. And also, it's not like when you go into a court situation like this and you have that much damning evidence. It's not going to work like some of the trials you see with Casey Anthony or something like that.
Probably still get expelled. And again, I think at that point it's like, and again, I think it's perfectly fine if the Jedi had just basically apologized at the end of the arc, or had just at least said, okay, you can at least see where we were coming from, right? Please, maybe. Versus. Okay, yeah.
I mean, they did try to hear her out a little bit. They did talk to her and ask her questions. She just didn't have, the answers, and she was kind of she was going to lose that situation.
Yeah, but again, it is very apparent from the mannerisms of the Jedi how they're talking that they just did it because the Senate wanted them to.
Their mannerisms. I mean, the evidence is quite damning for against her.
But the way they were talking, it wasn't an actual trial. They just basically said, "Okay, yeah, you're guilty. Go away."
I mean, yeah, they had like I guess like Yoda was technically like maybe at the head of it. I think when I'm looking back at it from memory, and then basically they had the other surrounding Jedi, and then they basically voted right or something.
Yeah, I mean, but just like realistically speaking, how long does a court case take in real life? For a couple hours, like.
Yeah, maybe it was a little bit short, but
that is what Ahsoka is going to focus on. The fact that they just expelled her because the Senate wanted them to. They didn't actually give her a fair trial.
I mean, how would the trial prolonged?
Again, I think that's relevant.
Well, no. You are making that. That was your point, though. It was a very short trial, almost too short. So how long would it actually prolong? If
I would assume if it's anything like,
what would Ahsoka's case be to make her innocent?
I assume it would be like a good half hour. I mean, we don't have like defendants and witnesses and stuff like that, so it's obviously not going to be as long. But I would assume that the Jedi. I'd assume that a Jedi tribunal case would last a long time if they were actually taking it seriously.
Well, I think they did take it very seriously because they were, as you said,
the terminology. If they were actually planning on giving her a fair trial, which in that case they weren't, and that's what
I mean.
That's what
I don't really think. So her case was basically that I'm innocent. You just have to kind of trust me. That was kind of what she had to kind of go through. She didn't really have much substance to defend besides that. Why would I do this? You guys know me.
That there was the fact that Ventress was with her at certain points, and Ventress is a known separatist war criminal.
Okay.
That is certainly a possibility. It's like, okay, yeah, we have an unknown variable in the case, which is Ventress. There are things to talk about and dispute with that.
And also, they didn't know that. They did think it was going to be a Jedi within the temple to be able to bomb it. They didn't think Ventress was able to get inside.
No, Ventress wasn't in it. But why would Ventress not be able to get inside? I mean,
because that's what they were assuming. That they were assuming that
were suspecting that
someone from the inside did it. Yeah, someone betrayed them.
It was a suspicion that the Jedi would do it. They were like, okay, yeah, everything's on the table here. We have to assume that it was possible that Jedi could do it.
And also,
that was not their first guess
on video, so it's kind of hard. I guess the evidence is just so overwhelming that those trials it's just not going to be a very long trial. Like when but
the way that they carry it out, it is obvious to Ahsoka that it was not a fair trial.
And again, because it was too short. You're saying because it was too short, right? That's your point.
I mean,
I'm just trying to reiterate.
Ahsoka is proven innocent. They never account for the fact that they gave her that bullshit trial. They never say anything about it. In fact, they seem to think that it was a good idea or something because hey, it helped her grow as a person.
Well, that was Mace Windu, and that's
pretty hard.
That's Mace Windu trying to look positive on the moment. Obviously, trying to look at her like, hey, this was a real good like learning opportunity, and you really grew as a person. So you can also look at it that way.
Appreciate that.
Well, she's growing as a Jedi. I mean, the purpose of a Jedi is to grow.
True, but the Jedi just don't account for the fact that they were wrong.
I guess there's some there. I guess other Jedi did. Mace Windu to a certain degree.
It's her best friend and the person that brought her into the temple. Everybody else just tells her to screw off.
So Yoda, right?
Yoda just says you can come back into the Order.
Okay.
As if they're like, oh yeah,
and Plo Koon,
we're inviting you to come to our party, even though we had no relation. We kicked you out in the first place because the Senate told us to.
Well, they had the evidence against her though. Like she did look guilty. Yes, I don't think the Jedi would have done that. They didn't have that damning of evidence.
That's not the reason why she was expelled.
No, that is the reason why the evidence was there and they saw it. I'm like, that's pretty damning. You might as well expel her.
But the Senate did ask for it.
Yeah, the Senate did ask for it, and I think the Senate was very well aware of the evidence there.
But again, the Jedi just did it because, hey, guess what? We kind of need that right now. We need the Senate to be on our side.
I don't think they. Well, let's just say right here is the evidence was there to do that opportunity. so there was evidence against her, and she did look extremely guilty right
That
there.
would still just be the Jedi taking advantage of the situation, which I don't think that sits well with Ahsoka.
Well, no, but there's evidence against her though. She looks guilty. She looks like the perpetrator though. And either way, I'm like, well, we gain favor from it if we just kind of draw this conclusion. And the conclusion seems pretty reasonable because there's video of evidence right there. Because for instance, let's just say there was video evidence during the O.J. Simpson trial, and let's just say, assuming like how most people think that O.J. Simpson was guilty, if they had video of O.J. Simpson coming out there shanking Nicole Brown, shanking Ron Goldman, then yeah, O.J. Simpson would be locked up and gone to trouble.
Yeah, I don't think that O.J. Simpson would very much like people if the people that were like.
Okay, guys. Okay, I think you went long enough with this.
Okay. So we're just gonna agree to disagree and move on.
Immediately going in circles here.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. So we agree to disagree. Do you want to talk about music a little bit? Because I know I brought that up in my video.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Okay.
Okay. What is it, Dragon?
Okay, we're gonna talk about music, and then I'm going to leave because fuck me, so it's almost 12.
Yeah, no, it's
We'll down the floor.
Yeah, we could break this into parts and maybe continue this like another day if you want. Or something. Maybe not now. We can still keep going. So,
all right,
we've been at this about now, haven't we?
Because there's so much more stuff I talk about military. I have to talk about like the Zillibees and what's it called? But we'll talk about that at like maybe another time.
I think just opening up here, to speak, music is not an objective issue. It's not something you can boil down to quality. It's entirely dependent on the perspective of the viewer. So, for example, I know you very much didn't think that the Clone Wars soundtrack was impressive. You thought it was rather average, was I think the word that you used.
Yes.
However, I personally thought that the soundtrack was pretty great, and I think that I would say like off the top of my head, I can name like a good 20 or 30 tracks that I could listen to on repeat. I think it's a lot of really good shit.
Okay. Yeah. Can I? I'll rebuttal with this. Okay. So your last point about how you're able to listen to 20 to 30 tracks on repeat. When you were doing my review for the video, and when I brought that point up, and I know you said this was like the second time you viewed my video, you guys struggled to name a track. I mean, it just took a while. Then someone started humming the John Williams theme, and then you guys just moved on. So I'll just put that right there. Maybe now you can, but at that point in time, you didn't.
It was kind of. I get it was kind of confusing. Like Replica was like, okay, yeah, what's send me some good music, and I was like, okay, I'll send you some good music. I agree that we probably just should have named tracks out loud, but I guess I'm gonna do it right here. Zero's Nightclub Band, the Temple of Doom musical number homage in season 3. Anakin Wants Her Alive, Ahsoka Leaves, Clones, the one that plays it's called Percussion Fight when Kit Fisto and Grievous fight, Burying the Dead.
Okay.
Maul Vizsla and Savage, Sith fight, the Younglings theme, the music that plays when Gascon and Whack from the Droid arc find that civilization. I know you have a lot of problems with that arc, but I think specifically the music that plays right there is very good. The main theme for Grievous, the Lair of Grievous. Let's see here, the Cantina music in season 4 when Ventress goes to Tatooine, along with Ventress's like little leitmotif in general. I think that the music that plays during the 501st versus 212th shootout is very good. I think that.
Okay, here's my question. Hum me one of those tunes. If they're so good, you probably will memorize them, correct?
Yeah, but
I'm good.
Can I? Okay. Yeah, but I think you just I don't know. What's the best term to say? You just
subjective. Or are you trying to
no?
Subjective?
Yeah, really subjective. You just
Well, first things first, I want to bring up the objective point. So you said music's not objective, Airborne. Do you know who Hans Zimmer is? I believe you do.
Basically, if we're narrowing it down to the internal consistency of a script and directing, I don't see music playing an objective role.
Okay, well here it goes. So Hans Zimmer, right? He's probably the greatest modern composer that come out of here. Obviously, maybe not as good as John Williams, but Hans Zimmer, very high regard. Pirates of the Caribbean, Lion King, some of the Batman movies he did, some of the Christopher Nolan stuff. Yep, all that. This is him in Flug Magazine. He says it's one thing to make music emotional. It's another thing to make it objective and interesting. So he believes that there is objective music out there. And I think there's any form of objective art.
What is his qualification for
Hans Zimmer? He's a composer.
No. What does he say? What does he mean when he says that music can be objective?
That basically that there's music that essentially basically is better than other music, and you can do that based off off of opinion, but base it off of facts.
But how?
Well, could I add something to this to help
Okay.
make the conversation flow?
Yeah.
Okay.
What it means by that is that you have music that adds to the theme and emotion. For example, during like a horror movie, when people are getting slaughtered, you're not going to be playing like circus music or like smooth jazz.
Yeah, you have to, especially in a certain, definitely trying to convey the emotion. I do agree there with Fine Expert that can be a situation. But what happens if during a Star Wars you heard a Drake song in like a Star Wars show or movie?
I can agree with that. But again, that's just that's conveying emotion through the music, and I think that what people feel when they watch something is entirely subjective.
Yeah, maybe what they like, yes, but how it works in the movie is another thing when it comes to emotion. And also, if you want to make it based off of someone's opinion, you don't have music at all. So sometimes when people don't put in music in a certain part of the scene, maybe not for the full scene, but part of it and all of that, they might have it there where it could heighten the tension or something where you're not supposed to, there could be loads of different emotions there, so they don't put any music in there.
Well, I mean, again, tension, different people feel different levels of tension based on different responses to different elements of the movie.
I mean, if you're watching the movie, and obviously maybe if you're watching a movie for the first time or something like that, and you're paying attention to it, and the scene, let's just say it's a high tension scene, you're probably going to feel high tension there. If you're not paying attention to it because aka you're bored, that's a different story.
The only thing that makes the scene high tension is the fact that the person felt tense during it.
No, you can write into that. You can make a scene more tension by saving it up for writing. I don't think tension is just completely and totally subjective. There is very much you can objectify it. Yeah.
But how would you quantify tension in terms of
quantify it? I mean, I think it's more of I don't know if you can put it into numbers or anything. I mean, obviously music. There's a lot of. I mean, I'm not sure if a number rating or what do you mean by quantify. But I guess when it comes to it and all. When it comes to music, obviously how it applies to the situation. So for instance, I like tempo, for instance. Now, the reason why tempo is an important thing. So when you see the Jedi Temple March happen, when Anakin Revenge of the Sith, he's coming up there, right. The tempo matches the clones going up the stairway to go kill the Jedi. And with Anakin marching, it's in sync with that. And and throughout the show, when you do the tempo and you see these battles where the droids are walking slowly, it doesn't match the tempo and it's faster pace. Now, faster paced music would work better in a faster paced scene, but sometimes they would have that music in there where it just doesn't exactly fit.
What about the only other time, because there is actually an equivalent scenario to the Temple March in Revenge of the Sith, where season 1, episode 5, Rookies, the droids are marching towards the door panel. For the moon base at the exact same speed of the music.
Okay, yeah, no, I think they sometimes do it, but I see time in and time out they made that mistake.
Or perhaps season 1, episode 16, The Hidden Enemy. The droids are the music starts out slow and it matches with the marching of the droids. However, once the droids execute a very swift strike onto the the clones' defensives, the music picks up in pace because the editing is very fast. The movements of the troopers are very fast. I can't really think of many moments where the music is just above the pace of the movement of the characters.
Usually with the droids are on screen where they focus on the droids marching in towards, like, obviously I know, like, sometimes, like, you know, like a droid Starfire, obviously it's going to be a little bit faster. A good example of that is where they actually use temp music. Do you guys know what temp music is?
Yes, I know that. Can you give me an example of like this actually happening in
Okay.
like a time?
So basically, okay, beginning of the arc where they go to Serrano, where Count Dooku is, and this is like the Obi-Wan bounty hunter arc. So he's with Cad Bane and Moralu Evolve, and basically they have the ship come down, and they have this fast-paced music that's basically temp music from Call of Duty 4. And when Call of Duty 4 used it, they used it correctly, where it's basically, have you ever played the mission One Shot, One Kill?
I have.
Or Gilly in the Mist, excuse me, the one before that. You know how when you're gonna run before the cars, there's that music which goes like bump bump, and it's like supposed to be like kind of, and it's clicky, and you kind of go forward. Yeah, and the reason why they play it there is because that's when Captain Macmillan is basically running and trying to get under a car. That's how the music is used. For this one, they use that music when basically a ship is just casually landing down, and that's supposed to be chase music, or like music where you're essentially running, and so it's supposed to be a lot faster. And the fact that it's not really, it doesn't really fit the scene there. And it's also from a different form of medium. Obviously, it's not copyright; it's temp music. But yeah,
I'm rewatching the scene, like the beat of the actual beat is rather subdued. It's just like a little like someone like tapping on a cymbal with like a drumstick.
Yeah.
I think that's perfectly acceptable for
them landing on the but it's not fast though. It's supposed to be faster paced music is for a fast scene. Because that scene's particularly fast.
But the quote unquote fast part of the music is rather subdued versus like the main notes, which are very slow, like drawn out, like melodic notes.
Well, what's the tempo? The tempo's rather fast for Chasing the Bastard. I know that's the same song.
And relative.
Okay.
Yeah, I know this is really hard to prove just because like we can't play any of the music or anything like that. So yeah,
it's not, I just don't think again, speed in and of itself is relative. It's not really. It's not really something you can say. Oh yeah, it's going too fast. It's going too slow.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it goes too fast though for a scene that's not supposed to be fast, that can be a little bit of an issue. Like for instance, the song "Never Forget" in Halo. That song. Do you ever hear this? That's a slow song. Do you ever hear that in the gameplay of the video game? Do you ever hear the song "Never Forget"? You might hear it in a cutscene, but you never hear it in like an action scene.
But what is the objective issue behind the fact that the tempo of the music is faster or slower than the scene?
Because it can mess up. Okay, sorry. I know I've played Tavian Dragon's hating this right now.
Okay, I'm leaving. It's just
right. We'll finish up our little conversation about music here, and then we'll wrap.
Yeah, we'll just finish it off with Tavian. So that's just one thing right there. I think we'll just agree to disagree right there. Maybe we'll continue that another day. And one more last thing: the main theme, "Galaxy Divided." My issue with that is when the song starts playing, and it's the part where the show where you hear Tom Kane's narration. And he starts talking about how basically it's like it's ominous music, which is I find very interesting because the show is not a very ominous show. And how do I describe that? Is basically the good guys win a lot at the end of the day. At the end of the battle, good overcomes evil a lot. And yet you have this super ominous music and all that. And I'm glad they did something different from the original John Williams theme because it is like, I think, giving it its own unique thing. And for the beginning 20 seconds of it, it's fine. And once they get by the Jedi Fortune Cookie, it's fine. Or once they get to the Jedi Fortune Cookie, it's fine. But then beyond that, it just doesn't match to the show's like tone.
But the show's concepts themselves, it's about like a galaxy being torn apart by intergalactic conflict. It's not despite where we differ on the fact that I think that the outcomes of the show are mostly fine, whereas you think that they're one-sided towards the Republic. The subject matter of Star Wars: The Clone Wars is very much serious. It's very much real. It's
I don't think it's very serious because you do have a lot of filler arcs. Because the D
Oh.
Squad arc, which is 4 arcs,
Okay.
which is 4
Okay.
episodes long, is very
All right.
tone
All
wise.
right.
It's not great. Okay, what is it?
Okay.
Like at the end of
But what is the D-Squad arc about? It's about a group of like spies intercepting in a separatist decryption code in order for them to stop a massive attack against the Republic. I think that is an inherent, despite the goofy context of
very
this
goofy
scenario,
context.
I think that the scenario itself is inherently serious.
Maybe like the
I
end
don't
goal
think
is
that
speaking
we
for the
could-
MacGuffin, but you could argue that in SpongeBob they have that. Yet it has a super there's some seriousness to it. So for instance, when they're playing hooky, basically is they're riding on hooks because they think they're fun, but basically they could die and they could be captured and be overthrown. So that's a very serious thing. But obviously the show how it works, it's obviously everyone knows SpongeBob. It's a very
it's a goofy show.
But
But kind of thing is like, but the setup for Star Wars: The Clone Wars is always the fact that it doesn't like it starts off as okay, we're giving you the details. So imagine if we just had like goofy clown music over. Okay, so we're gonna have to infiltrate a separatist ship to steal a security, a decryption key in order to stop a massive separatist attack. I don't think they should be playing goofy music over that when it is.
Fun fact: they actually do in season 7 when Anakin kills Admiral Trench. When Admiral Trench dies and falls over, they play goofy
That's not
music.
what I'm talking about, though. I'm talking.
I mean,
about,
you're saying that it's about seriousness and then playing goofy music about
No,
how that's
no.
not very good.
I'm saying specifically within the intro, the fact that they would.
Okay, intro. Okay.
They are always talking about something serious happening. I don't think they should just change it because it turns out in the arc it's a bunch of droids. Like that's just.
I would say that they should probably.
One, it's not an objective issue, and
You don't
two,
have to make goofy, so
it's not really. It's not. One, it's not an issue. Two, it perfectly fits the tone. Like.
I don't think the ominous tone really fits it because it should be like kind of like it's kind of supposed to be adventurous. It's supposed to be like an epic battle. I think they should have more like heroic kind of music because it's more of a hero's tale than it is about like a tragedy or like really like ominous.
Tragic music. It's just like
it's ominous. It's ominous. Basically, it's a bad guy kind of.
I don't quite agree with that. I think it's just serious music, which I think Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Yes, it's often goofy, but the subject matter at a surface level, which is what the title crawl is serious.
I would say the title crawl does try to take itself seriously, but does not have to have ominous villain music. Obviously, we can't play here or show it to the audience. So
it's not. I don't really agree that it's ominous. I just think it's serious.
Okay.
I feel like it's kind of a misattribution. That's
okay. We're just gonna. How about we just agree to disagree and then wrap everything up? Is that fine?
Yeah, I think this was.
Okay.
I think this was fun. I hope we can continue this at a later date.
Yeah. I think that would be good. I think that would be good to expand off of that. Latavian Dragon, I do appreciate you being very hands off and letting us kind of go for it. I know you kind of loathe some of these kind of convo, but or this debate, but we do appreciate you doing this.
Thank you.
And we also appreciate Airborne, being one-on-one with me. So
thank you so much for coming on and having a discussion.
Yes. Of course, anytime.
Offering your arguments.
All right, awesome.
I guess that is the end of the stream, Lupus, if you're hearing this, and we will see everybody next time.
Take care.
Bye.
See ya.
you.